Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Confident Women Leaders Show. And I have an amazing guest with me today. Her name is Mehrnaz Campbell. She has an incredible story I don't want you to miss today. So stay tuned because you're going to hear a lot about her. We firmly believe that women are changing the world. They're stepping in to the confidence in creating the things that the world needs. A little background about Mehrnaz Campbell, and she is amazing. She is the founder and CEO of Cheemia, and they are experts in getting market access, driving exponential sales, and an expert in helping pharmaceutical and healthcare sales teams to confidently engage remotely through Cheemia, ReSET, and Cheemia Re-Inspire. These are training platforms, and she's been involved in the pharmaceutical industry for over 29 years. And I actually started my career as a nurse, she says. And what's even funnier is that we have crossed paths probably many times in our career. So I just wanted to welcome you, Merhnaz, and I'm so excited you're here today.
Thank you, Dina, and it's lovely to be here. And I just feel it's been a privilege getting to know you through HBA and just getting here to have this chat with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Since I've talked with you the first time, your life has just turned into this amazing plethora of awards. So I want to tell everybody she has gotten 3 awards, really. The first one, she is the top 10 companies in remote work tech solutions providers. They have a new Innovative Award in the UK, and she's actually got a digital transformation government grant. So things are blowing up for over there for Cheemia. But I want to go back to you because this is really the company is you, and you have such an incredible story. And I want you to tell people a little bit about you, what you'd like for people to know about you, but talk about where you came from because I think it's so powerful. And when I first met you, it was very inspiring for me to hear about your story and what brought you to where you are today.
Thanks, Dina. I was born in Iran, and as you know, in Iran, like the country was going through a lot of turmoil, experienced revolution and war. So I moved to the UK in mid 80s, and my goal was to study and develop a career there. And I just stayed for another 30 years when I got to UK. I initially studied as a nurse, as you know, and then I was really keen to progress my career. So I joined medical equipment companies, and then I went into pharmaceutical sales. And pharmaceutical companies been really good to me. I mean, I worked with Glaxo for a number of years, with Pfizer for almost 9 years, and then Takeda for 9 years. And they really invested in my training and education. And I experienced so many different jobs in sales management, leadership, marketing leadership, and account management. And then 5 years ago, I decided to move to US. I was getting married, and I had a really, really good job in Takeda. I was a multi-channel strategy director. And it's really hard when you're at that late stage in life, thinking, I'm going to kind of like give this up, go to another country, another continent, and start all over again. But I said to myself, girl, you did this. You did this like 30 years ago. And that girl didn't speak English. She had no qualifications. She had no work experience. Now
Mhm.
you've got that. And what happened to that girl 30 years ago? Wake her up.
Yeah.
And I did. And I decided to move to US and set up a company back in Scotland and manage it remotely. And at the time, people were thinking, are you mad? How are you going to run a company from US? But now it's all fashionable, with digital transformation, everybody's thinking I can live where I want and work where I want. So that's how my journey started. And that's where I established Cheemia. And I kind of like think maybe this is my suggestions to all of the listeners and other women is if you kind of like want to do something you've never done before, just reach for that curious girl inside you and wake her up and see what she would suggest you do and just take a positive step in that direction.
I love that. I want to go back to some of the things that you are experiencing as a young girl, in that place of being in a war-torn country, and how were you able to kind of capitalize upon that experience, not let it either deflect for what you wanted and what your vision was for you as an adult, but how
Mhm.
do you overcome some of those things that create a lot of career stalls for people around the world because of their
Mhm.
experiences in their younger years?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky. My mum was my biggest cheerleader, and she was constantly giving us kind of like a mantras that still ring in my ear. And she had a huge influence and positivity on my siblings and I. And I remember she always used to say to me, you can do whatever you want if you set your mind to it. The key word is mind. You need to set your mind to it. And she used to say, if there's a will, there's a way. And I kind of like still think that they ring true for me. So I often think if I want something, I'll go for it. And I
Mm-hmm.
move in that direction. And I think one of the key principles that really helped me, my transition to move from Iran to UK was quite difficult because, first of all, at the time, the country was in war. They were not even issuing any visas. But in my heart, I believed I was going to move to the UK and I was going to study. And I remember the day I went in to pick up my, visa, I was walking past people in stretchers, and they were only giving like visas to 3 categories: diplomats, people over 65, and those who were so sick they were on a stretcher. And I didn't hit any of them. But I always believed I was going to go there. So I kind of like think you need to know what you want, know why you want it, and just move in that direction and don't worry about how you're going to do it. Because even when I got to the UK, I didn't know how I was going to stay, how I was going to study, but I thought you're going to figure that along the way, but just move one step at a time in the
Mm-hmm.
direction that you want to go for. So, and you get there.
I love that. I heard 3 really important things that are great takeaways. 1, there's a will, there's a way.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, believing in what you want. And then
Mm-hmm.
number 3, quit worrying about it and just do it.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 things that I took away from who you are.
Yeah. I think we spend a lot of energy as women worrying about things because we want to get it perfect. And I think perfection is overrated. I think my philosophy is take massive imperfect um, action and just adjust it along the way.
Yeah.
Because when you move forward, you learn. And when you learn, you can adjust things and
Mhm.
not worry about that, what if it goes wrong? Then have the confidence inside you that whatever happened, you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I think my mom was a big motivator and encourager.
Yeah.
I think when you don't have much, you always can have dreams. So I always lived in dreams of what my life could be. And I think my mom kind of encouraged me that if you really believe in it and move in that direction, you're going to get it. And somehow it's all worked out.
I love that. I love that. And I want to go back to a story that we were talking about right before we came on, and that was when you broke your arm. So I want to go back to that story because I think it was kind of it was that all of a sudden it was like, oh, maybe I'll just do this, which is where a
Yeah.
lot of great ideas come from. So I want to go back to that point in time, and can you tell people kind of that story
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
Mm. I remember at the time I was working at Takeda and we were at the meeting and they were talking about this charity ride from London to Paris, which is about 300 miles. They were planning to do it over like 4 days. And I thought, that sounds great. I love cycling. I didn't have a bike at the time, right? I thought, yeah, I want to do this. So I remember I signed up and then I had to go and buy a bike and train for it. But cut a long story short, it was an amazing experience. And the team, we raised a lot for the charity Myeloma UK that we were riding for. But 10 miles short of Paris, I just somersaulted over my handlebar and fell over. I broke my arm. And obviously, they were really concerned because I didn't know at the time I'd broken it, but I couldn't put my hand on the handlebar. And I remember I insisted, even though that I couldn't ride the rest of it, I insisted I had to get back on my bike and cross the finish line because in my head, I had visualized I was crossing the finish line. And I remember I actually asked 2 of the ride captains because they said we can only let you go on the bike if you can brake the bike. And I put my hand and I couldn't use my arm to brake. I said, I tell you what, you hold my shirt, my jersey, and you brake for me. So I said, okay. So I started cycling because I was determined I was going to finish the finish line. And they were just holding my jersey. So I finished the finish line. We had a photo, had a beer, and then went to the hospital. But what happened was when I got back to the UK, my employer obviously said, you can't go to work because my work involved driving. And okay, for the first week, I was really sick because I was in a lot of pain and bruising. But after a week, I said to them, let me come back to work because my arm's broken, but my head's still working. And at the time, we were negotiating a commercial agreement, major kind of like a contract in a therapy area that was quite critical for our business. And I thought, well, I can do that. And because I was not driving, because I wasn't going to meetings, I had more time to read and digest information. So I found actually a critical piece of information to do with the medical and licenses, because we were going for a commercial pitch. That was so key because it technically, through the actions that we did, remove one of our competitors that was potentially a threat. And then that led to us to be really successful in doing a pitch, and we won a commercial agreement. And then I continued rollout of that commercial agreement. And cut a long story short, that particular project actually led to the brand becoming a market leader in the UK, even though it was just only for a particular part. And I think that kind of like made me realize what's possible. You know, things happen in life, some planned, some unplanned, and hurdles come on our way. We can just stop and say, okay, I can't do this. My arm's broken. I'm just going to go off sick for 2 months. Or you can say, what can I do to make a difference? Where can I add value? What's possible? And then when you ask yourself different questions, different ideas come into your head. I honestly think, you know, when I decided to go to US and set up my own company, the first contract I got was with my previous employer, because they knew, they said, well, if this girl can do this from her sick bed and, you know, negotiate a commercial agreement that led to this success, we believe she can do this from America. And I think had I not done that, I probably would have not secured that first contract, because in those days, in 1917, I remember the CEO, he was American, was saying, how on earth is she going to do this from America? She's in a different time zone. But in reality, I actually delivered more value, because 12 o'clock in US Eastern time zone, they finish work. I've got 5 hours of uninterrupted work to deliver on their project. So I kind of like think when things happen that we don't like, we have to think about, okay, what's good about it?
Right.
What could be good about it? And how can I use my skills to make the most of this situation?
Yes, and you certainly did that. I remember working in GSK in 2013, and we were starting to go into this digital stage where everything was starting to go from paper into iPads and being on digital. And you've got this incredible company right now. And I want to spend a little time with, because that was kind of the base of your story, is kind of this idea of what you experienced when you broke your arm, kind of that aha moment that you can engage on a different platform. So talk to everybody about how you came up with Cheemia and your Cheemia ReSET and your Cheemia
Yeah.
Fire. I want to hear about those.
Yeah, well, Cheemia is a Persian word. It means alchemy, and alchemy means the art of transmuting base metal to gold. And that was kind of like my ethos. I decided I set up my own independent company and do what I've always done, which I was really successful, which is, you know, market access, growing sales. But instead of working for one company, I can do that on behalf of other companies. So we set that up initially as myself, and then I gradually expanded the team because clients liked what we were doing, and we were, you know, growing their brands exponentially. And then the pandemic happened. As you know, pandemic affected the whole pharmaceutical industry. Everything came to a halt, and some companies had to furlough their staff. And then afterwards, the communications were all done through remote channels. Well, we had been doing remote working since 2017 because, you know, Zoom, I've been using Zoom for 6 years now. They were not new to us. And we had found a recipe. We had developed a recipe about the structure of our work, how we go about it, how to use multi-channel channels of engagement to engage with healthcare professionals, how to get them to say yes through these remote channels. And we felt, you know, sometimes you feel like you've got a duty of care. You've got something everybody else is looking for, and you think, I have to share this. But also we felt we need to share it using digital channels because everybody's at home. So we upskilled ourselves and we developed 2 cloud-based training platforms. Cheemia ReSET is designed for sales professionals, and Cheemia Reinspire, we designed it for the sales managers because sales managers are always busy. They don't have time to go through all the details. And I used to be a sales manager, so I kind of like think, what would I have liked to have in my toolbox to be able to manage my team remotely? And because I had been managing our own team remotely for a number of years, I put all the toolbox in there for them, like benchmarking tools, assessment tools, diagnostic tools. So we developed this during lockdown. And we beta tested it, and beta tested it in 2020 and tested really well. So we decided to kind of take it out there, and a pharmaceutical company, Norgine, looked at it and they said, we piloted in 4 countries. If it's successful, we do a global rollout. So they piloted in the UK, Belgium, Netherlands, and Alps. And they said, yeah, we love this. We want to do this. So in 2021, we rolled this out across 12 countries across Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. And we had all the videos translated in 4 other languages, the worksheets available in 5 languages. And it was phenomenal because within days and weeks, we started getting this phenomenal feedback. People saying, wow, I feel my confidence is rising. My team's confidence is rising. By the time people were getting, like, it was a 6-week module, by the time people were getting to week 4 module, they were saying, I got this. And the thing was, I think what was really resonating with people was, it was not some trainer telling them this is what you should do. We were doing it ourselves. We were kind of saying, these are my recipes. Guys, these are the things works for me. And my other team members were sharing it, like Lindsay was saying, this is what works for me. Try it and see whether it works for you or not, and pick what resonates with you. So we kind of like shared our recipe through a digital platform, and we were delighted because, I mean, Norgine just closed at 2021. They launched 2 brands remotely, and they had the best financial year, and they saved digital footprint because they were not driving the cars and burning fuel and everything. And that's what we won the award. And I'm quite excited about 2022 because I kind of like hope we can share our recipe with more pharmaceutical salespeople because we're not techies. I mean, I don't class myself techie. So I kind of like feel you need to figure out what do you need to do so you can be yourself. Salespeople rely so much on their interpersonal skills for communicating. We know how to walk into a room and work the room, right? But when you get this camcorder in front of you or a webcam or computer, it's not people's comfort zone, right? So it's about figuring out what do you need to do to be able to do what you're really good at, which is engaging with people. And that's what I help people to get more confident. And in the same way, like, I'm not an electrician. I don't know how to do the wiring, but if it gets dark, I know if I switch the light will come on. So we kind of like identify all these switches for the sales professionals so they can click it and get in the right zone so that they can communicate confidently. Because let's face it, Dina, everybody deserves to be confident because when we're confident, we do our best work. We feel happy. We feel like comfortable in our own skin. And I kind of like wish that for everyone, to feel confident when they go to work, because then they can feel good about themselves.
That's one of the things I think that tied us together really quickly, because we talk about confidence, and I created diagnostic thinking because it was kind of the missing piece. As you go through leadership training and as you're being faced with some of those critical decisions that maybe, Cheemia kind of can't answer, but yet we're having to step out of that and then making some really good decisions, and solving the right problem at the right time is so critical. And if you don't know what that is and solving the wrong problem, you end up losing a lot of confidence because it's not the results that you have. And that's kind of what you do. You building confidence with these, the tech platforms, really specific about things that you thought that the world needed, and you built it. And that's one of the things that I want to share with everybody here, is that if you don't have it inside of your organization, create it. If it's not there and you want to create it on your own, then build your company, right? And so it really is stepping out of your comfort zones, but stepping in with faith and knowledge that you can create a greater impact. And that's what I heard you say.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of you, Dina, for the work you've done on diagnostic thinking, because I always think of the Pareto principle. Is 20% of the things that we do that has the biggest impact on our overall performance. The secret is figuring out where is that 20%, so you don't waste your time on the 80% and do more of what really works. And I think diagnostic thinking is key to figure out what are the key levers. When we do account management, I often say there's only one or two things we need to do to make this
Mhm.
happen. Well, let's spend time to figure that out.
Right.
Don't pontificate for too long, but experiment,
Yeah.
test and evaluate and figure it out. And then once you
Yeah.
figure that, put your investment and energy in that direction.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're able to grow sales
Yeah.
exponentially. I mean, our team during lockdown doubled the sales of a pharmaceutical company who we're doing service for. So it is possible to do it.
It
You just
is.
have to take the time and do the analysis.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And I love what you're doing because it's so needed in the market. So
Mhm.
if this is touching anybody in pharmaceutical, definitely you probably want to connect in with Merhnaz for sure, and get a conversation going. I want to go back to just a few last questions for you, and I think you answered quite a few of them. But what is your best advice for anyone that's fearful for asking for what they want?
I think fear is a funny thing, is the opposite of confidence. And I think fear often is not real because people are worried about something that's not even happened.
Mhm.
So I would say if you're worried about asking for something, I would say flip it on its way. What would happen if you ask? I think two things could happen if you ask for it. You either get it or you learn something.
Mm, I get
And
it.
if you learn something, then you can go and change your strategy so you can get it next time. I don't think there's such a thing as failure. And I encourage our team in Cheemia to make mistakes.
Right.
Because if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. We often learn more from our mistakes than things that we get right first time. So I think, move in that direction and take imperfect action and go for it. I think that's the big difference between men and women. Men don't think about it, they
Yeah.
just go for it. And often I find people who are
Yeah.
not quite qualified apply for jobs and they get it. And you think, well, how did that happen? It's
Yeah.
because they felt confident inside. As
That's
as women, we're so overcritical. We have to have this, and that, and tick all these boxes. And
right.
even afterwards, we think, oh, am I ready? Of course you're ready. I mean, as women, we've got so many transferable skills that we don't think about. And I've
Yeah.
got a story. When I was going back from maternity leave, first time when I had my first son, I actually applied for a promotion. And when I went for the promotion, I said to them, all the skills I learned as a mother, project management, coordination, are applicable in this leadership role I'm applying for.
Yeah.
And I got the job. But most people coming from maternity leave thinking, oh, I've been away from work, would my brain work again?
Yep.
Can I do this? Of course you can. You're a
Yep.
mom. You're managing a family. You're doing the grocery and going to work at the same time. You're a multitask master and
Yes.
you're a great project manager. So
Yes.
don't doubt yourself
Yes.
and
Yes.
believe in yourself.
It's so vitally important. And I talk to a lot of women all over the world who are coming back from a maternity leave, right? And you're still just trying to adjust to new motherhood, the hormonal change, getting back to work. Now you've got all these layers and just that overarching, just overwhelming feeling. Sometimes it's kind of hard to kind of get through that, but realize that you have it. It's in you,
Mm.
right? You have it. Somewhere or another, you just kind of jump off the planet because you've got different things to do for a very short period of time, but then jumping back in and having the confidence that you have it and you've always had it all along. So I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you. It's a great story.
I think if I was going to give tips for people to feel
Yep.
confident, it's probably two things. One is to do with your own physiology.
Yep.
Um, if any of us would think there would be a time in our life that we felt super confident, if you go there and think of that moment, you probably can think how you were standing, how you were sitting, what were you even wearing, what
Mhm.
was your breathing rate like. And I think if you pay attention to that, you
Mm.
can get the recipe and get your physiology in that state to feel confident.
Mhm.
The other key thing is that voice in our head, right? we all I'm not alone, am I? We all talk to each other, right?
Yeah, we do.
And it's how that voice talks to you. What's that tone? Is it a nurturing, kind tone, or is it like critical or
Mm.
overbearing? And what do you say to yourself?
Yeah.
Do you say to yourself, you've got this, go for it, you're a winner? Or do you say, I'm not sure, you can do this? So paying attention, and you can actually change the voice in your head. I've done that. At times when I wasn't feeling confident, I paid attention. I noticed that the voice was telling me off, saying, "Oh no, you can't do this." And I changed the voice and I changed that
Mm.
tone. And now when I say to myself, I'm so mindful of how I speak to myself, make that a nurturing, loving, caring, and
Mm.
optimistic voice. And I think those two things make a big difference. Um,
Mhm.
Amy Cuddy has a fantastic TED talk
Mhm.
about power posing.
Yes.
And she talks about the science of
Yes.
how physiology affects our chemistry and how our
Yep.
chemistry affects our confidence. I highly recommend people watch it if they haven't. But also, it's about what we say to ourselves.
Mhm.
I had to make some really big decisions recently, and I've developed a new habit. I say to myself, if you knew you could not fail, what would you do in this situation? If you knew no matter what you do, you could not fail, what would you do? And it's amazing how many ideas come in your head when you think and ask yourself that question.
Yep. And that's really hard for people to do, because we get so entrapped into this very small part of thinking that we use every day. But it's all of
Mhm.
these subconscious things that you're kind of pulling into, the real world needs that you have. And we all have them. But if you're not socially, consciously, and self aware, it's really hard to see those on your own.
Mhm.
But surrounding yourself with people that have some of those great ideas and some of that synergy is very powerful too. So if you had to go back and do it all over again, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh gosh, I would say to myself, enjoy the moment, trust your instinct, and take more risk, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Take more risks. You have been very inspirational for us today, Merhnaz. I want to thank you for joining the Confident Women Leaders Show. And certainly, how can people get a hold of you? If you're out in the pharmaceutical world and you're looking for digital sales training, multi-channel marketing, this platform is amazing. Obviously, you're getting lots of awards for it. How do people get in touch with you?
Um, the best way to get in touch with me is either through LinkedIn. So I'm Mehrnaz Campbell. That's my LinkedIn handle. So you can find me there. You can email me at mehrnaz@cheemia.co.uk. And it's been an absolute pleasure
Yeah.
knowing you, Dina, and being here today with you. And I look forward to working more closely with you. You
Oh,
never know, we
yes.
might do something magic together.
Well, that's my vision, right? Because I think great women have to connect with other great women. Strategic partnerships to me is everything. How can we help each other move and grow? So, thank you again so much. So glad to have you on my show today. And listen, if you're out there, make sure that you tap into your confidence and make sure and have that narrative that you can and you will. And there's nothing that's impossible. Take care, everyone. And I'll see you on the next Confident Women Leaders Show next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.